Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today I'm going to show you the best way to maximize the amazing visuals in Cyberpunk 2077 while also maintaining a playable frame rate on PC. I'd like to give Nvidia a huge thank you for sponsoring this video and making amazing GPUs that run Cyberpunk incredibly well. Now, it is common knowledge at this point that Cyberpunk is a very demanding game, even on high-end PCs and the next-gen consoles. But there are certainly some tweaks that you can make, at least on PC, that will help you get the most out of the visuals in this game and your performance. Before that though, can we just take a moment to appreciate the immense level of detail in this game? Say what you will about the story, bugs, or gameplay, Cyberpunk is a screenshot generating machine. And that's because the entire world is handcrafted, from the massive neon skyscrapers to the empty boxes of Chinese food in the gutter. Pretty much no matter where you go, there's always something impressive to look at. And as you can see from the footage in my screenshot folder, I've spent like a third of my time in game just composing scenes and taking photos. The in-game photo mode is incredible, and you can capture basically ready-to-go wallpapers with just a few tweaks to the camera and image adjustment settings. And certainly the insane lighting in this game is a big part of why every scene looks so fantastic. Cyberpunk is one of those games that I think utilizes ray tracing properly. In a lot of games, RTX can be transformative, but it's also a very binary experience. You can either turn it on or off, and the little nuances and additional effects that RTX can lend to a game are usually locked by the developers. But in Cyberpunk, you can individually enable or disable each RTX effect and scale up the lighting options to some insane levels or find the perfect balance that you like the best. Crank the settings to max and the ray tracing in Cyberpunk will handle reflections, shadows, lighting, and it also adds global illumination with the sky itself acting like a physically simulated light source. Now, unlike Minecraft, ray tracing doesn't totally replace the game's traditional lighting options, but instead augments it with greater accuracy and fidelity. For example, non-RTX screen space reflections can look pretty grainy even on their max settings because of how they're calculated. But with RTX turned on, the reflections aren't just accurate, they're much cleaner and they fill in the gaps that SSR leaves. Now, of course, I am dancing around the real star of the show here, and that has to go to Dlss, which is only available on NVIDIA RTX GPUs. Dlss stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling, and it's NVIDIA's AI-powered upscaling technology that renders the game at lower resolutions but uses machine learning to fill in the gaps while displaying the rendered image at a much higher resolution. The result is a high resolution image that looks nearly as good as native resolution but gives you a massive performance boost. The performance improvement from Dlss is so substantial that it really makes you think, how would this game have even been possible before this kind of brand new technology even existed? Game devs have been using all sorts of upscaling tricks like line doubling, checkerboard rendering, intelligent sharpening, and more, but none of them have really achieved the same quality level as Dlss while also giving players a massive performance improvement. In some scenes, Dlss can literally give you double the frame rate, a 50% performance boost, while also reducing rendering latency. So the result isn't just more FPS, but the lower latency gives you a smoother and more fluid experience. And if by some bizarre reason you are playing Cyberpunk on an NVIDIA RTX GPU and you're not using Dlss, well, then you're just throwing away free performance. Now, at the start of this video, I talked about maximizing your performance. If you're not interested in ray tracing, then using Digital Foundry's recommended settings guide is still a good starting point. It offers the best balance of performance and visuals, giving you a stable frame rate without turning the game into mush. And if you haven't seen their guide yet, I'll leave a link below. It's definitely worth checking out. It'll get into all the little settings and tweaking things here and there and give you a good idea of how you might want to manipulate the game to look the way you like. And if you tweak the settings and you're happy, then great. But you can actually take things even a step further. Now, there are two additional settings in the gameplay options specifically for boosting performance that you can also mess with. The crowd density option will buy back some of your CPU usage, which can boost your FPS if you're running into 100% utilization issues. The difference between medium and high is actually pretty decent performance-wise without turning the game into a ghost town. The other option is the slow hard drive setting. I'd recommend enabling this even if you're playing the game from an SSD. This will have you load more content into your GPU's VRAM, and it helps prevent stutters as new content is loaded. This is especially helpful when driving shading and can give you more stable FPS overall. Now looking at the visuals, here I am flipping between the native high preset in the game, Digital Foundry's optimized settings, and their settings plus ray tracing. And I think you'll agree that all three configs actually look great. But the visuals don't mean much unless we can back them up with playable FPS. And while I've spent most of my time playing the game using an RTX 3080, I also did some testing with the RTX 2080. In fact, all of the performance analysis clips you've seen in this video were with the 2080, just to prove that you don't inherently need the latest and greatest GPU to run Cyberpunk at a respectable setting. In fact, this was all recorded at 1440p as well. If you are trying to absolutely maximize your FPS though, dropping to 1080p with DLSS enabled will further boost the performance by a noticeable amount. So if you can get your hands on an NVIDIA RTX capable GPU, then DLSS is going to be the biggest factor in getting you crisp performance while you hack and potentially slash your way through Night City. Adding those performance tweaks that I mentioned will clean things up a bit further, giving you the best experience that you can get. I'd like to thank NVIDIA once again for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.